Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. Happy Friday. All right, let's get it going. A round of applause for everybody. A happy Friday. All right, we ended in the green. Everything is looking good. Okay, we're not headed for new lows. We are officially. It seems like we're just moved on from all the bear territory and everything else. Everything's just on a quick recovery. So, that's going to lead in today's stream. We're going to be talking about kind of a few different things. We're going to have Jeremy Spiegel on deck talking about what his, predictions are. And I'll kind of explain who Jeremy Spiegel is. Really, really smart guy. I enjoy listening to him whenever he's on YouTube. We'll be talking a little bit about, some of the outcomes that came from the UAE visit by President Trump and that slew of tech CEOs and executives. We'll talk just a little bit about United Health. All right. I know there's probably a lot of people who do hold United Health. It is a blue chip stock. It has, a consistent dividend payout. But there's been a lot of concerns around this. All right. And I know we usually cover the high yield dividend stuff, but I do hold, some REITs, old man stuff. So I think it's appropriate to at least cover UNH. Because, they are a blue chip company. They are a blue chip stock. So we'll cover that, and we'll cover a little bit of gold and core, more news about CoreWeave, and then we'll, go through the market stuff and then hit you with a portfolio update. So let me just make sure I get everything set on my side. So I'm still working on this. Okay. All right, cool. So this is all good news, guys. This is all good news. All right, let's roll into it, guys. Let's roll into the video. Okay, so we're going to start this off with a portfolio update. Oh my God. We're going to start this off with a portfolio update. So anyways, excuse me, I'm all over the place today. So we're going to start with a portfolio update. It looks like we are just $10,000 or a little over, a little under $11,000 away from a full recovery. So this is exciting. You guys, have rocked out with me. If you're new to the channel or new to the stream, this portfolio was down like $70,000 and it looked like it was going to go down even further at one point. So it was really, really scary, right? That was post liquidation or liberation day, whatever you want to call it. And we were just getting killed in the markets. So it was a lot of fear, doom, and gloom. And, shout out to any investors that kept their marbles during this time because it was scary as hell, especially for a lot of people, myself included, where I have a sizable amount of margin. All right. I have a lot of margin. And, when you are getting closer and closer and you're inching closer and closer to getting a margin call, then, it just kind of keeps you up at night. So thankfully, we moved way past that. A lot of lessons learned during that time, because I've never had margin up until, this year. Never used it, right? Never touched the stuff. It's like a drug, but never touched the stuff. And then I decided to try it out, use it, implement some new strategies in my overall portfolio, not just, the high yield stuff or the reinvesting stuff, or even real estate stuff. Because real estate, you're always going to use leverage, right? You're always going to invest with debt. But that's completely different than, using debt to invest in stocks that can drop, 15, 20, 30% seemingly overnight. So far, far different. But we'll move on from this. All right. So I will actually deep dive into these portfolios at the very end of this stream. So stick with me. All right. Okay. First up on deck is going to be Jeremy Siegel. He's a very smart guy. He's a professor at the Wharton School of Business, I think. And he's a huge economist. He works at WisdomTree. So WisdomTree is an ETF provider. They have a lot. It's an investment services, right? But really intelligent guy. I like to just listen to everything he says. Again, he's one of my top favorites. If you're going to listen to people on YouTube, Dan Ives from Wedbush. I like to listen to Tom Lee from Fundstrat. I like to listen to Jeremy Siegel. Again, these are all CNBC contributors. I'm sure there's another slew of people out there. I know some ETF fund managers, from time to time they'll get on CNBC as well. So it's always good just to listen in and hear what they have to say to get a data point. All right. So let's get into it.
It does take us to our talk of the tape. After such a strong rebound, is there enough left in the tank to take stocks much higher? Let's ask the Wharton School professor of finance, Jeremy Siegel. He is also WisdomTree's chief economist. It's always good to see you on what's become a Friday tradition. Hope you're well.
I'm well, Scott. Thank you.
So it's been an incredible comeback. Does it have more steam?
Yeah, I think so. I'm becoming.
So we're talking about next week, right? We ended the week in green, had a great week, a flurry of great news. So let's see if we can keep this up. And he's basically talking about his predictions for next week.
More bullish. I call it the Trump pivot. Remember 6 months ago, we were talking about the Powell pivot. I think the Trump pivot, the day that we saw those tariffs go, from 145 to 30, I think right now it's coming into focus. It's going to be a 10 and 30. 10 basically for the rest of the world, 30 for China, and of course, aluminum, steel, a couple more on there. But it's coming into focus. It's not a good thing. It isn't positive. Listen, I think without the tariffs, the stock market would be 10% higher. But it has the market has a lot of positive things, I think, going for it. I like the low prints I see on inflation. Yes, I do know that the tariffs are going to be coming up, but I think that is definitely positive. I like what Trump is doing in the Mideast and Saudi and Qatar, and that's a huge area, a positive area there. And I just like the way that the market is reacting to potentially negative news. I mean, how it brushed off, as you mentioned at the top of the show, the budget committee turning down the tax proposal, a brief dip, but then a rise. By the way, that's going to get done. I've seen this many times before. You've seen it many times before. We will get a tax deal coming up.
So again, he's kind of just summarizing all of the great news that we had this week. And, there was no whipsaws, this whole visit to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE was completely out of left field. And the flurry of good news that came out of there absolutely sent the stock market ripping to new highs, right? Mostly for the tech sector, all right? I know I cover a lot of the tech sector on this channel, but it's because it's the stuff that I follow. So apologize, but if you guys want me to probably cover some other things, I definitely can. Let me know in the chat. So we got Shannon joining us. All right. Hey, welcome. The professor, he says, senpai, strategies over spreadsheets. Every single day of the week, we got to take profits, not screenshots. All right. Shannon says we should end up green on our VGT and FTech positions next week. That's what I'm talking about. All right. I need some green in my damn portfolio. All right. Because that one is still in the red. So hopefully next week we'll end green. We'll be back to baseline. And then, we'll see greener skies. All right. For the rest of the year.
I think this market could surprise everyone by hitting new highs.
Wow. An incredible change of tone. And many do believe that the tone.
And that's pretty much it. He thinks we're going to hit new highs, and I'm inclined to agree. I mean, Palantir just hit new highs this week, all right? NVIDIA is starting its run up, all right? I think it's all-time high according to the current charts where it was like $144. So it's still on the way. Senpai says, you are my only news for tech when I get home from work. You go live, so it's perfect. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And I am glad because I follow tech. I used to never invest in tech. I was mostly a real estate guy. So, and not just REITs, but I mean actual real estate. So I always invested into an S&P 500. I was like, whatever, that'll be my tech stuff. But, I never realized how fun and exciting tech is right now. And tech is hot. So maybe I got in at the right time or maybe I got in too late. I have no idea. All right, let's move on, guys. So NVIDIA, Cisco, Oracle, and OpenAI are backing the UAE Stargate data center project. All right, you guys know I've talked about Stargate on this channel multiple times. I have a whole video dedicated to my AI thesis. As a matter of fact, let me just show you guys that real fast in case you guys are interested in checking it out. All right, where is it? I'm bullish. Yeah, right here, this one. My $170,000 purchase into this tech ETF and why. Right. And I basically give you guys my whole AI thesis on why I'm bullish on some of the companies that I'm very bullish on. But getting back to this. So again, Donald Trump went to the UAE, he talked to a bunch of people, shook hands, shaked babies, all that good stuff. And I think he got like a really nice award from the UAE, which is a big deal because he's the first U.S. president to ever receive such a prestigious award from the UAE. So that was really cool to see. But US tech giants NVIDIA, Cisco, Oracle, and OpenAI are supporting the UAE's Stargate artificial intelligence data center announced this week. Multiple people familiar with the deal confirmed on Friday. AI chip leader NVIDIA will supply hardware with the latest Blackwell GB300 systems. And these are really beefy systems, all right? I covered it in one of my streams. I should have covered it and had a picture for you guys. But yeah, this thing is like balls. It's got like 4 GPUs. It's pretty intense. It's a dual CPU with 4 GPUs, right? 4 NVIDIA-backed GPUs. It's crazy. One person was asked not to be named in order to speak freely, right? So again, Stargate. We keep hearing this name. We keep hearing about Stargate. I keep talking about Stargate, right? What the heck is Stargate? For our newer viewers, I know some of you guys who rocked out with me before heard me talk about it, but this is Stargate. This is OpenAI's initiative with the Trump administration to basically build up American AI infrastructure. And all these companies are going to benefit from this. And this is why I'm so heavy in tech, right? This is why I believe a lot in tech. And, luckily, there's a lot of high yield dividend ETFs that, mimic tech. You have things like, things from like yieldmax. You have AMD, you have NVIDIA, you have PLTY, you have a couple other ones, Google, you have Amazon, you have all those other ones. Similarly, you have stuff from Roundhill, you have stuff from Defiance, you have stuff from everywhere else. So it's just perfect timing. You can own the underlier, of course. You don't have to go with the high yield stuff. But anyways, just for the newer viewers, all right, we will begin deploying $100 billion immediately. The infrastructure will secure American leadership in artificial intelligence, create hundreds and thousands of American jobs, and generate massive economic benefit for the world. This is basically their mission statement. All right, this is what the project is going to do. Sam Altman, I mentioned this before. He was at a committee hearing by the Senate. He was there with Lisa Su, along with CEO of AMD, one of the C-suite executives of Microsoft, and Michael and Trader, CEO of CoreWeave. And Sam Altman was talking about, again, this whole AI stack and bringing it to the world, right? Everything's going to be AI. Well, everything's going to be American, right? That's the more important thing, is everything's going to be American. It's going to be American technology, American software, American stack, American power, American everything. So this is really, really cool. So yeah, anyways. I just wanted to cover this. Again, if you guys want to, take advantage of this whole Stargate project, right? We're still in the early phases. This is still very new. You can hop in on NVIDIA. You can take a look at Cisco. Cisco is actually a really, really good networking company. They have a really great lineup of technologies. They are a huge contractor for the DoD. And, I think in the terms of networking equipment, networking technologies, Cisco is the dominant player. You have other players out there. You have like Juniper. You have there's Juniper. There's another one, Brocade, but I think Brocade pretty much is trash at this point. I don't even think they're around anymore. But Cisco is the dominant player in the space. They own it basically. They own the market share, and they're a great company. Oracle, I don't know about Oracle. To me, they're a dinosaur, but they seem to they seem to be making some waves. So maybe they'll come back, right? OpenAI obviously is not there, but this also lends to my idea of semiconductors, right? And why I'm so invested in semiconductors. Things like CHIPY, which is from yieldmax, but in there you have all the underliers. You have Broadcom, you have TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductors. You have, who else do you have in there? You have a ton of, you have Texas Instruments, you have Qualcomm. There's a line I saw, like an article, a quick little blurb about Qualcomm making some deals in the UAE as well. I did not read it, but yeah, definitely something to think about, guys. All right. I'm just saying this is a great time to be investing. This is an excellent time. Even if you missed the dip, right now is still very early in my opinion. All right. All right, let's move on, guys. Again, Stargate project. You guys should definitely read this document. I cover it so much. Sometimes I won't shut up about it. All right. United Health. Let's talk about it. All right. This is a blue chip company. Been around for a very long time. Love them or hate them. I personally hate insurance. I hate insurance companies, but love them or hate them. This is interesting for people who hold UNH or, you know, they've invested in these blue chip companies, right? So United Health rebounds amid insider purchases. And this is, you know, kind of a telltale sign of like, oh crap, maybe I should get in on the stock right now. Shares of United Health Group bounced back on Friday, ending an 8-day losing streak marked by multiple setbacks as several of its directors disclosed a purchase of more than $1.6 million worth of company stock. That is wild that a lot of these guys on the inside of, usually they would be dumping shares, right? Because, you know, UNH is in a lot of hot water right now. Their CEO basically quit, but really I think there's, you know, or I read somewhere that there is probably more to the story, that the current board was like, no, this guy's not fit for the job. So they got rid of him, but he's there as an advisor, right? Meanwhile, the new CEO is transitioning in, and the new CEO was the CEO from 2006 to 2017, and he basically made UNH what it was, right? And then Thompson, unfortunately, well, Thompson took over, and then unfortunately, you know, he got, you know, unalived. But UNH, yeah. So he's going back to the company to steer it in the right direction, right? And then more bad news, right? So you had the CEO stepping down, and then you have a Department of Justice probe into the company saying that they're defrauding the government with, you know, their Medicare stuff, right? So that sent the stock just tumbling down. So for these people, these directors, these C-suite executives to be buying up the stock, right? The insiders, that tells you something. Right? Maybe these legal troubles, you know, they'll just pay the fine and move on, right? Or maybe the CEO, you know, is like bullish on the CEO. This guy's smart. He knows the company inside and out. He basically built it from what, you know, to what it is today. So he's going to right the ship. You know, is it going to happen in a week or two? No, but over time, over a year, you know, it could definitely. And then not only that, they also pulled guidance for the rest of the year, and they, you know, cited rising medical costs and things like that. Health insurance is not going anywhere, guys. Like, let's be honest, it's just not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So a company like UNH, which owns a huge amount of the market share, is going to benefit, period. It's going to benefit. But we'll see what happens. All right. We'll see what happens. All right. Kristen Gill, senior executive at Alphabet, or Google, who conducted the biggest transaction of the three, had purchased 3.7 thousand UNH shares for $271 a piece in a transaction worth over $1 million, expanding her holding over threefold. That is crazy, guys. That is absolutely crazy. The insiders purchase took place on May 14 and 15. So if you bought 14 and 15, congratulations, guys. You guys, I think, are okay. You guys will be okay, all right? But of course, you know, this is that double blow that they faced. Again, I think they will see greener days. I don't follow UNH, to be honest. I mean, I just don't. I don't follow a lot of companies. I mean, there's too many damn companies to follow. But, you know, something like United Health, it wasn't in the news. It was everywhere. It kept popping up in my feed. So I decided, hey, I'll cover it. And I know there's some people in the community, some people on the channel that probably hold UNH. So I just wanted to cover it because this makes up, you know, almost any dividend investor's portfolio. So UNH, you know, we could just see their stock price just tumble, right? Just absolutely tumbled down 50%. And then, you know, people were buying somewhere around, you know, here, and then it just kept dipping and dipping and dipping. Oh, there we go. There we go. I know you guys can't see, but anyways, there we go. All right. So hopefully we'll have greener days for UNH. Okay. All right. So gold. Shout out to the gold holders, all right, to the Goldie holders. You guys are getting cooked right now, okay? Gold hit with the biggest weekly percentage drop in nearly 4 years on the U.S.-China trade truce. As soon as that China trade truce was announced, gold just absolutely got demolished. Now, gold, I've been covering gold in a lot of my live streams, right? It's just been the best performing asset year to date, right? It's just, it's used as a recession hedge. It's used as a inflation hedge, as a currency hedge. It's used as basically a safe haven, right? And a lot of investors were flocking out of equities, flocking out of bonds, flocking out of everything else, and getting into gold, right? Because gold is just that safe haven. In the news, especially right after Liberation Day, all this talk of recession, all this talk of doom and gloom, all this talk of, you know, the United States is heading into, you know, pre-World War II, you know, era style stuff. And this China trade war is going to go on forever. And, you know, we have some, you know, crazy man at the helm. all this bad news just kept coming out, right? And gold just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And again, sometimes it makes you think, man, like, is there really a bigger market or is there really a bigger play here? Like, is someone really driving the market like that? Because, you know, as people flocked out of equities, you know, more and more people were buying in at these lower prices. I don't know. But anyways, positive trade talks between the U.S. and China, along with deals with President Trump has made during the tour in the Middle East, are easing fears that the U.S. economy will slip into recession. And we already heard from JP Morgan Chase, and we already heard from Wells Fargo, no, not Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, that they are lowering their forecast for a recession down from like 50 and 60% down to like 30 and 35. So there you go, guys. All right. And again, it is their job to forecast this stuff. They're not there to just, you know, produce a bunch of doom and gloom. Like they manage billions and billions of dollars. Like they have to do this stuff. They have to, you know, protect people's money, you know, so that when they publish these forecasts, it's worth just noting again, but they have to do it based on risk, right? Because they're managing other people's money. They're managing other institutions, other family offices, huge companies, you know, yeah, all that good stuff. Anyways, while many analysts expect more short-term losses for gold, with less trade aggression from the U.S. and a somewhat less turbulent geopolitical environment globally, many also see the metal rising again. All right, a couple notes here. So not too long ago, I covered on this channel this Indian-Pakistan war, right? And how if we kept hearing about it in the news, I think even though that like we have no real economic ties with, you know, Pakistan, we do with India, right? Well, a little bit, not a whole lot actually, to be honest, but war is just bad, right? War equals bad. War equals emotional turmoil, investor sentiment, all that stuff. When the Ukraine-Russian war kicked off, you know, U.S. stock market took a dip, right? No reason why. Not like we had a whole lot of stuff there, right? But you also had a lot of companies pulling out of Russia. You know, McDonald's shut down, a lot of Starbucks shut down, hotel chains, everything left Russia. Anything doing business in the United States, if they wanted to keep doing business, they had to leave Russia, right? We basically cut Russia off. We cut them off from the SWIFT system. It was crazy, right? But that would send a market tumbling down. As far as like the Pakistan-Indian war, you know, it's just bad news, right? That's really it. But, you know, current president went to the Middle East. Hopefully, you know, some good news came from there. Basically, Pakistan, India, they stopped the war. You know, they're halting right now. Hopefully they'll open up the trade. But yeah, that war was getting spicy. India basically locked off their water to Pakistan. So Pakistan was getting no fresh water. And then they're just lobbing missiles at each other. So it was really crazy. But again, stuff like that, geopolitical, regional conflict, you know, that scares investors. That kind of stuff makes investors flock to gold. But anyways, enough of that. Let's move on. All right. CoreWeave was in the news. All right. CoreWeave, NVIDIA-backed company. Again, they're on a rip, 22%. There's still a lot of pundits out there, a lot of analysts that think CoreWeave is a bag full of crap. I'm still one of them. I'm still semi-bearish on CoreWeave, right? The fact that they have backing from NVIDIA is a good sign. CoreWeave is a data center. They're very CapEx heavy. They have a lot of debt. They have to take on a lot of debt in order to buy the GPUs from NVIDIA, in order to hire the technicians, build the data centers, all that to manage the data center. So they're very CapEx heavy. But it looks like they're turning around, and a lot of investors are really liking the stock. So in case you want to hop in on a AI-specific data center, nothing like Digital Realty Trust, which is ticker DLR, that's a REIT, or Equinix, which is the oldest, biggest, you know, giant in the game, ticker EQIX. Those are two data centers. And, you know, they're going to probably feel some of the love, but CoreWeave, I think, is so centric on artificial intelligence that if you believe in the thesis, if you believe in this whole, you know, bullishness for AI companies, hyperscalers, hardware manufacturers, all the way down to power, if you believe in that, CoreWeave is definitely going to be one of those benefactors, or beneficiaries, I should say. All right, so real quick, let me check the chat and before we move on to the market news and check the poll. All right, so let's see. Unfriendly Stoic says, what are the return of REITs? Over time, they've actually beaten the S&P 500. I have a whole video on that. Let me just, well, yeah, let me see what the time is. Yeah, we got time. All right, where is that video? Yeah, that video took a lot of flack, actually. A lot of people were pissed off by that video, but I mean, right here. why I invest in REITs to build my wealth. REITs surpass the S&P 500, but that's over long periods of time. All right. I think you really start to see the return profile around 25, or what was it? I think 20 years, 15 to 20 years. And then after that, just REITs historically have outperformed the S&P 500. They've also outperformed a lot of blue chip companies as well. So it's a very fascinating set of data, and that's coming from the NAREIT, the National Association of Real Estate Investment Trusts. They did a study starting from 1972 up until I think 2023 or 2022. And they basically found that REITs have outperformed, right? Just over time. In the shorter term, 5, 10, 15 years, the S&P 500 outperformed, and, they get closer and closer as the years move on. And that's partly due because of, the dividends that REITs produce. They produce a high amount of dividend. So, nothing like the 100%, from the, high yield dividend space, but REITs do produce a higher than normal dividend when compared to like regular stocks. All right. Killer Poet says, thank you, Eugen, for keeping us on the cutting edge with these fantastic high yield ETFs. You are the man. I appreciate you, Killer Poet. You are also the man. Thank you for joining on this stream. All right. I'm just a face and a name. I have, people, Citizen of the Year is definitely helpful. Alex, I think he's in the chat as well. Alex is also very helpful. It takes a team, takes a village, right? Citizen of the Year says, I think you mean sign babies, not shake. We're speaking about Trump, heading to the UAE. Yeah, he's shaking babies and kissing hands. Let's see. Matt Thompson says stock indexes are about to break highs or reject and roll over next week. Could be revealing. I think so too. I think next week is going to be kind of instrumental. But again, right now the market is completely irrational. It's all based on just good news. Like fundamentals, out the window. Tesla, even though they missed and completely just flopped Q1, the announcement of Elon Musk going back to Tesla and the stock just soared, right? And then they released a humanoid robot video and it continued to soar, right? So again, the market right now is completely irrational. Fundamentals, like never heard of her, right? Shannon says, hit that like button. I appreciate that. Yes, please hit that like button. All right, guys. It just helps me as a small time YouTuber. Matt Thompson also asked, when is the DeepSeek update? I don't follow the DeepSeek stuff, man, because obviously that's Chinese and from Chinese manufactured. I don't follow it. I'd rather not send my information to China. I'm a big fan of ChatGPT, Gemini, US based language learning models. I mean, I've had my social security already leaked on prior, military prior service. So I've had my data leaked 100 times, but at least, that's the king in Nigeria, not, the Chinese government. Fun fact, if you buy anything from Huawei, pucks, switches, phones, anything like that, I've had friends who are cybersecurity professionals. They will, the devices will actually send information to Chinese servers, right? Chinese IP addresses located over there. So it makes you go, like if you look at these routers and things. So just a fun story, when I was working on a US base, I can't disclose the location, but basically there was a report that said, hey, if you have Huawei devices or Xiaomi or anything, you need to throw that shit out right now because all the data was getting sent to China. And that was really, really interesting. So anyways, fun story there. Jim Brinkley says, I love this guy. Thanks, Eugen. You have 3 vids that have been eye-opening. Finally, we have a high-yield channel that we can trust. I appreciate that, man. I'm going to do my best not to lose your guys' trust. I know with, this kind of stuff comes great responsibility, right? I understand. This is why I'm very careful in what I say, what I do, because I don't want to lead people on, and I certainly don't want people to lose money. I would feel horrible if that was the case. So I take stuff like this very, very seriously. This is why I don't just give you guys buy signals or calls or anything like that. I just tell you guys what I'm doing, what I think, and what my thesis is, and you guys can agree or disagree with it. So, I mean, this is a very big responsibility when you do YouTube, especially finance tube. I've seen YouTubers completely lead their whole audience astray, completely screw them over, and make them lose money. And then they go, oopsie, my bad, guys. So like, what a weak ass apology when people are putting and losing $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 in something someone, kind of shills. So again, I take that very, very seriously. But thank you for the comment. All right. King of Big Mac. I love that name. King of Big Mac. Palantir was also there shaking hands. Yeah, Alex Karp was there, and he met. And King of Big Mac mentions the new Mag 7. Not to get too cheesy in here, guys. All right, but I did have on my watch list this Titans list, right? It's what I call the new Mag 7. All right, they're not gonna dethrone the Magnificent 7. Okay, but these are just the next lineup of companies I think are gonna outperform this year or for the next couple of years, right? I think they're gonna do very well. It's mostly semiconductors, right? Mostly semiconductors. The two biggest chip manufacturers, AMD, NVIDIA. I didn't include Intel because I think they're pretty much cooked duck at this point. Palantir for sure. They are the premier defense artificial intelligence company. They are truly the Skynet, right? Imagine if you have Tesla bots loaded with Palantir software and you strap an M16 to these bots, right? Like it's gonna get crazy. Palantir is also breaching into the financial services sector. Okay, so in Europe, they're helping look for fraud and waste and all that kind of stuff, especially like I said, with these bigger banks, these bigger finance institutions. So this is a good sign because imagine, and they're already breaking into Saudi Arabia and Dubai and Qatar. So imagine if they start breaking into Singapore, Korea, Australia, Japan, where these large finance sectors live, or these large finance hubs. Palantir has such not only a great product, but they're going to have brighter days, I think. All right, just my thought, my thesis. Again, don't follow me, but yeah, that's what I think about all that. Heading back here, let's see. Senpai says bought some lotto calls on UNH. Hope they print next week. Yep, got to play that lottery. Shannon says thinking about buying 1 to 2 shares of UNH for fun. Yeah, that's how we should create our watch list these days, is buying just 1 or 2 shares and just keeping an eye on it. I'm being sarcastic, of course, because a watch list does exist, as I just showed you. But hey, if you want to do that for fun and YOLO a little couple dollars, that's cool too. All right, let me check the poll and then we'll move on. All right, so the question was predictions for next week. Will it be, or yeah, what are your predictions for next week? 86% of you says it's going to be choppy, but we're going to end in the green. 14% of you, oh, we got a new one. 83% for the first one. 17% says massive correction incoming, red week. All right. 0% of you says, what's a stock market? I buy gold. All right. So I'm going to agree with the 83%. I really do think we're going to be in for choppy days. But again, the Trump administration just continues pumping out good news. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. But yep, we're going to end that poll and we're going to move on to just a few more comments and we'll head into the portfolio updates in the markets. All right. Let's see. Unfriendly Stoic says REITs versus outright ownership of your own property. How would you, man, I can go on and on about that. I think I have a video. You might have to search for it, but I do have a video on that. Retire big. I love the big changes coming for yieldmax. I wouldn't have known about that if it wasn't for Eugen. I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for Alex. All right. So big shout out to him. He's the one who gave me that information. All right. I'm just the one who presented it. But yeah, definitely Alex, he gets the biggest shout out of all because he's the one who found it. Black Jacket says, yeah, he's on top of the high yield game. Glad I found him. How often does he go live? I do lives most days. I usually do lives Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. Most days, all right? I live out here in Thailand, so in case you guys didn't know that, so I live out here in Thailand. I used to work DOD way back last year. I quit, but I did DOD contracting for 8 years, decided I had enough, and now I live out here in Thailand, and I'm kind of just going with the flow. I enjoy investing, enjoy the finance stuff, enjoy YouTube, so this is what I'm now doing. But yeah, I'm 12 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time, so it's 8:34 my time. All right, but I do appreciate that comment. Let's see. Tradesman, hit that like. Appreciate that, guy. Matt Thompson, just asking about DeepSeek because it crushed some of the other related stocks. Oh, yeah. I mean, but that, to me, that was overblown. Completely overblown. Yeah, like DeepSeek is garbage, in my opinion. Sunset Key says, I bought more PLTW today, Eugen. Love this ETF. Thanks for talking about it. You're very welcome. All right, guys, let's move into the markets. All right, S&P 500 up 70 basis points. All right, we ended in the green. All right, really, really good week. Just nothing but great news. NASDAQ, all right, tech heavy, tech focused ETF. If we're looking at, we're up 43 basis points. And over the week, again, we're up 2.93%. Really good. Bitcoin, not doing so hot. All right, really choppy like it always is. All right, just it's always choppy in Bitcoin land, in crypto world. All right, no idea if this is gonna head south or head north. Again, a lot of pundits are always talking about crypto heading for new highs, heading for 200K Bitcoin by the end of the year. Again, I'm of that camp now. I think the whole crypto winter thing is over. I don't know. I'm not a crypto guy, but I'm hoping MSTW from Roundhill gets dropped soon because they need to hurry up and launch that damn thing because I am buying that without question. Of course, I still want to do a little more due diligence on MSTR because that is the biggest risk here. MSTR, yes, it can be viewed as a Ponzi scheme, and I am of that camp, but listening to other very intelligent investors, one of them being Lynn Alden, who's a very, very intelligent macro economist, macro analyst. She put out a lot of banger stuff about MSTR. So I'm still doing a lot of my deep diving into MSTR, but the more and more I understand the point of MSTR and how he's kind of gutting the whole, gutting the software company and just becoming the first and only biggest, Bitcoin treasury, I think it's interesting, right? I just think it's interesting. If Bitcoin was to go to 200K, imagine if you're a holder of MST, MSTW, or MSty, right? Imagine that. That'd be absolutely bonkers. It seems like MSTR is that cockroach that you just can't quite kill. Doesn't matter how many nuclear blasts come out. It just seems to do okay. It was on the brink of a huge collapse when Bitcoin was trending down. But one of the finer points about MSTR that I didn't ever really stop to think about was that the way they structured their debt, it gives them runway in case Bitcoin runs into a 5-year bear correction or whatever you want to call it, a 5-year bear market, right? That is the way MSTR has their debt structured. So I found that absolutely fascinating. So again, I'm trying to compile all this information into one video, which I will publish. But again, I'm not saying I'm bullish on MSTR. I'm not saying I'm going to buy MSTR. I'm not saying I'm going to buy msty or anything else. I like MSTW because of the 1-2x levered. It's from Roundhill. Roundhill's been good with my money. I'm not, knocking any other ETF manager out there. But if it does come out, great. Anyways, moving on. Oh, Alex joined us. Hey, buddy. I was talking about you earlier and just, again, Alex, he's in the chat. He's the one who gave me all these prospectuses. He is the keeper of the records in the Discord, all right? So he's the one who's popping out with those ETF updates. So if you guys, aren't in the Discord, you guys need to check that out. If you are in the Discord, definitely check out that channel. He is a good contributor. I appreciate his time for sure. All right, looking at gold. Still the best performing asset year to date compared to most other assets. But yeah, it looks like we're trending lower, right? We had a lot of outflows, which again, we use gold as a barometer for the market, right? We understand a little bit about investor sentiment, investor, psychology. If everyone's flocking to gold, that's telling me that, people are a little bearish on equities, or they want to flock to safety, or there's bigger things happening in the market. And as we've seen, as we heard, recession forecasts and blah, 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 it kind of spooked a lot of investors. So, there's that. US 10-year Treasury, this is what we use, and more to the point of REITs, this is what we use as a barometer, okay? You can use the 10-year, you can use the 5-year. The 5-year is more appropriate for like commercial real estate. The 10-year is a little more appropriate for, REITs. But we use this as a weather gauge, as a barometer for, mortgages, right? This is what we really use it for. And it doesn't look good. I'll tell you this right now. It just does not look good. If this, again, I've been saying this for months now, if this thing remains elevated, like REITs are just in for pain. But also, there is a prevailing thought and a changing of the wind saying that, maybe we just stay at these rates, for a while. It's just, we are so used to cheap money, 2020, through 2022, we're just used to cheap money. And then even before that, 2000 all the way, or 2008, great financial crisis happened, stocks dropped, all that stuff. Fed lowered interest rates to 0, right? And we stayed on this epic bull run all the way up until, the Rona of 19, the Rona 19, right? But everyone was used to just cheap money, free money. And then it wasn't up until like 2018, 2019, and 2020 when rates were actually increasing and they started reaching about that, like that 3.5%, that 4%. So maybe it's just that is what we need to be at. And people were still buying real estate. People were still making deals. People were still buying REITs, things like that. But again, it's just people are used to cheap, free money. So, yeah, maybe that's our problem as America, because I think Moody's just downgraded the credit of the United States. They downgraded our credit. So Moody's, there was two other ones. I can't remember their names right now. But there's three of these S&P Global. They actually downgraded the United States credit rating as well. So, and that's due to all this debt that the United States has. So you kind of see why the administration is doing what they're doing, trying to lower the deficits, trying to, rebalance trade, trying to make America, more money. You could see why it's happening, right? It's just too much damn debt. Anyways, I digress. VNQ, again, we use this to kind of just gauge real estate and real estate. Actually, we use this to gauge REITs and how they're doing. Today, thankfully, they went up, but after market, it looked like they had a crazy whipsaw. Not sure why. They keep playing with my freaking emotions. They need to just hurry up and recover because last year, September timeframe, they were at $98, close to $100, right? And this is when I saw the greatest amount of recovery in my REIT portfolio. So, we just need to freaking get this back up there. But again, this is not normal for REITs. If you look at REITs, like this is not normal. Like these spikes like this. Again, that was zero interest rate. That's why REITs were going crazy. And then interest rates came and they kind of like normalized. So again, my opinion, I think there's a changing in the wind that people are just getting used to this now. Like this is it. We can't be, expected to always have a zero interest rate environment. All right, cool. Let's move into the portfolio updates and we'll close out the stream. All right, so this is the first portfolio. It's the Robinhood portfolio. It's the one most of you guys are probably familiar with. All right, looking good so far. All right, we're looking really frothy. PLTW, no changes, no new buys. Okay, I'm not buying anything new right now. I'm kind of holding some cash. Just got some dividend income, so that's good. Sitting on $4,300, but I use a lot of margin. All right, guys, lots and lots of margin. I use all of my margin, so it's $100,000 cash. Injection into the portfolio with 100,000 in margin, right? So is what it is, but yeah, that's that portfolio. Again, I saw this start to go down. The margin buffer, as it's known, I started seeing this going down to like the $8,000. So I was just one stupid Truth Social post away from getting completely, margin called and probably wiped out. But we had a reversal. So that was good to see. That was great to see. And we're headed for greener days. So that's always a plus on in my book. I hold PLTW, Palantir weekly pay, NVW, NVIDIA weekly pay. I'm very bullish on these two stocks. So you guys can check out my AI thesis. And I also published 2 videos on PLTW and NVW that you guys can check out. Well, Palantir and NVIDIA. Cepi, semiconductor ETF. I'm very bullish on that. XPay, xdte, cover call ETFs for the S&P 500. These two are basically the anchors in this whole portfolio. All right, so that'll do that for that. Let's move on to the other portfolio that most people, that I don't really talk about much because it's boring and it's, it's kind of like an old man's way of investing, but this is where all my REITs live, all right? All right, so I hope you guys could see this. Yeah, you guys can see this. So this is the REIT portfolio. This is where I hold everything else, all right? REITs, recovering. They keep whipsawing up and down, not really doing much. They're kind of remaining steady, but diversification is key. So when everything else seemed like it was just dropping, like technology was dropping, REITs were actually doing very well. They were actually rising in value. And then came liquidation day / liberation day, and then everything got pummeled. Didn't matter if it was gold, bonds, REITs, or technology stocks, or BDCs. Everything got completely wrecked, including crypto. So that was wild when that happened. But yes, I dropped $170,000 into VGT. And, just it started declining that day, right? Everything just started going down. So thankfully we are just, $7,000 away, $6,500, $6,400 away from a full recovery. Hopefully we'll get that next week. So, to Shannon, what was it? Shannon, I think that mentioned that. I think it was Shannon that mentioned that. Yes, to Shannon, VGT, FTech. Hopefully we get our stuff back to green. So that will do it for this portfolio update. I'm just going to check the comments real quick. Shannon says, but watch lists aren't fun when the rocket takes off. That is true. That is true. Interesting thing about the, buying one share to watch it. I thought it was interesting. If you hold like the stock and it rides up and then you sell for a profit, a lot of people will actually hold on to like a couple shares, right? Because what they want to do is they want to understand it. They want to understand or be alerted when they're below their cost basis, and then they'll dump in more money. I thought it was just an interesting strategy. Of course, you could use alerts. You don't need to, you could set up alerts on your watch list and things like that. But I just thought it was an interesting strategy. Latro says, howdy, what's up, man? Welcome. Latro says, Bitcoin should dip around 80K, then take off. Let's hope, because I hope MSTW will launch around that time. Gold has been suppressed, and the ability to suppress is waning. Silver even more. Yeah, I noticed that too. Silver is starting to do really, really well. I guess they fluctuate. Safi says, I missed a dip. I should have invest now or wait. Not financial advice, sir, or ma'am, but I don't know. I don't even know which stock in particular you're talking about. I still think in terms of artificial intelligence, we're still at the very beginning. We're still in the very early stages. You can still find really good deals. I talked about the Mag 7 kind of fading, they're going to have like muted growth. You're going to have to look for other areas to really get those better returns. I'm still in that camp. I don't think the Mag 7 is going to be able to return those juicy returns that they were able to do for many, many, many years. I'm not saying that they're not going to grow or anything like that. I'm just saying that they're not going to have those juicy returns that they had before. So you're going to have to look for other areas to find those opportunities. And for me, in my opinion, AI companies like Palantir, semiconductors are where it's going to be at. All right, just my opinion, of course. Love Muscle says it won't matter if you're in it for the long run. Exactly. Safi says April dip. You can see EWT on gold by searching YouTube for Michael Fligera. I'll have to peep that. Manish Chopra, man, I haven't seen you in a long time, brother. Welcome back. Yeah, Manish it's been a while, man. Yeah, you missed the opportunity to buy UNH. Maybe it's still there, man. I mean, it's still down quite a bit. Like UNH is not going anywhere. It might still be worthwhile to buy right now. Let's see. Tradesman, are silver and gold popular in Thailand? Not silver. Gold is very, very popular. There's another gentleman in the community, part of the chat. He pops in from time to time. He knows it as well. But yeah, gold out here is everywhere. Like there's gold. I bought a lot of gold in the Middle East. Necklaces, bracelets, that kind of crap. For the lady, and because we wanted to buy Thai gold, we wanted to basically sell that Middle Eastern gold and buy Thai gold with it, because Thai gold is very, very pure. You can't find anything, in my opinion, all right, I don't know if this is true, but from my experience, you can't find anything less than 24 karat. And when we tried to sell that Middle Eastern gold, we went to 3 different jewelers and they all said the same thing, which is wild. Like this was not next to each other. We went to 3 separate ones and they all said, you might as well sell that gold back in the Middle East, because we're going to give you such a bad rate here, because the gold is purer here in Thailand. So I just thought that was fascinating. It's like they didn't even want to take it. It was really kind of like it's like, like get that gold away from us. Like, man, it's just crazy. Anyways, gold is very popular here in Thailand. It's it's part of the culture, part of the tradition. A lot of people just own gold. It's crazy. People will own gold more than they will own any kind of like security stock or anything else. So it's just crazy. Let's see. Lacho says sold on the pop for ARQ, I think ARQQ. I'm not sure which one that is, and qubits. That good. Yeah. I want to talk more about the quantum stuff. I just haven't had really the time to like research quantum stocks or really dive into the quantum stuff. I know D-Wave, they recently made some waves, no pun intended, but they made some waves in the whole quantum sector because of their new technology that they came out with. But it's like there's some scientists that believe like it doesn't really do anything, and it's not really commercial, I guess, or it's not really feasible or usable. But the other side is saying like, no, this is excellent technology. It's brand new. It's going to be game changing. But I don't know. I don't really know. How much interest are you paying on the margin Robinhood? I think it's 5. Yeah, I think someone asked that in the earlier in the community, but I think it's 5 1/4. I think. Let's check. 5, yeah, 5.5. So 5.5%. So yeah, that sucks. Is what it is. Again, so the whole strategy about using margin is if you're investing in these high yield space, there has to be that credit spread, not really a credit spread, but there has to be that spread. So if you're buying an ETF, right, let's say it's going to give you 50% yield, right? That's more than what you would be paying on interest. But interest is not calculated by 5.5%, right? It's charging you daily interest. So you have to find out what the interest rate is, on the cost of the amount of money you're going to use for margin. And then that'll tell you how much you're going to be charged a day. All right. How much you're going to be charged per day. The thing I like about M1 Finance is if you do take any type of loan or margin or anything, they tell you right up front what the cost of that is going to be per month. So it kind of takes the guesswork away. Some people like myself, we're not good at math. So really interesting. Good question. Manage says, thanks, mate. Hey, man, you're welcome. And again, happy to have you back. Latro says 24K gold is very soft. Most jewelry is less. 100% on that. I had a friend who got married, Asian, culture, and they had all this gold on. Right. And some of the other family members were like snickering and saying that, oh, that gold is cheap. It's breaking so easily. But I had another friend that was like, well, gold is pure gold is very, very brittle. Like it's very soft. Malleable is the word. It's very malleable. Like you can bend this thing. But yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about gold. So I thought that was very fascinating. Saucemaker says, Saucemaker, welcome back. Part of the old guard. All right. Salute to you, sir. Don't sell that money rope and that silk shirt. No, man, I'm keeping my silk shirts. All right. Shannon says, I hear you on UNH. I'm probably not buying yet. People are expecting a quick rebound, so it'll still stay on the watch list for now. Absolutely. All right, guys, we are pretty much at minute 53. I am going to get ready. I have a lot of stuff to do. I'm actually heading out of the city and heading to another city to go check out some stuff. So got a lot on the agenda for this weekend. I'm going to take off. I hope you guys had a wonderful time on the stream. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. All right. And I will see you guys in the community. I'll see you guys in the stream or in the next video. You guys have a wonderful day. All right.